Welcome, everyone. My name is Will Moss. I'm the CEO of HBCU Connect. Uh, this next session, this is our 11 a.m. session. We have Joy Jackson-Guilford, Dr. Joy Jackson-Guilford from AbbVie, who's the Director of Strategic Partnerships. She will be leading this session and leading the conversation in Q&A on breaking the glass ceiling with your HBCU degree. So everyone tune in. Let's pay attention. If you like to engage in the chat, to ask questions in the chat, or to introduce yourself in the chat, feel free to do so. But we're going to go ahead and get started. So Dr. Jackson, if you're ready, please feel free to get started.
Thank you, Will, and thank you so much for the opportunity again to be in front of the HBCU Connect audience. It's always a pleasure to work with you, Will, and with you, Doug, and so excited to have many of you on to share more about breaking the glass ceiling with your HBCU degree. I will say, introduce myself as a double HBCU graduate. I know Will shouted out Hampton University, so I'm going to shout out Morris Brown College and Florida A&M University. So where are my Brownites and my Rattlers? Wherever you are, shout out to each of you. And so with that being said, I have a lot of lessons I've learned through my matriculation from HBCU to corporate America. And so I'm just going to today share with you about 8 points, or what I like to call pearls. And so it'll be points and pearls on each of the slides that can help you break that glass ceiling with your HBCU degree if you haven't done so already. So we'll go ahead and start with our first point. So my first point is your degree doesn't determine your destiny. Why do I say this? First of all, I want to think back on some situations where in conversations that I have had with individuals when we talk about our HBCUs as well as our Hispanic serving institutions. And the thought process in some of these folks' mind, because they went to whatever other school, PWI, that they attended, is that they don't know much about HBCUs. So, of course, they make assumptions, right? And so with those assumptions come less than, maybe not as much as, but we all know that our HBCU degree is not a limitation. It is definitely a foundation. And we also know it's not about where you start, but how you leverage where you are and what you learn. And so with that being said, we know that there are a number of professionals who have launched impactful careers from HBCUs. I mentioned earlier, I'm a double HBCU grad, and I work for a Fortune 100 company. I was told when I was at Morris Brown and getting ready to go to grad school that maybe I should consider a PWI for grad school because I had already had the HBCU experience. And I did apply to PWIs for my degree in pharmacology toxicology, where I have my PhD. But at that time, FAMU had graduated the most Black PhDs in pharmacology toxicology in the world. So my thought process is, why not be where they're grooming Black pharmacologists and toxicologists? And so I did end up at FAMU. So we know that determination, work ethic, ability to evolve, all of these things we learn from our HBCU experience. So no matter what people say, you know that your diploma is not necessarily who you are, but what you do with it. So just keep that in mind. So now let's move on to point number 2, or pearl number 2. No today doesn't mean no tomorrow. That means to me, rejection can actually be redirection. There are sometimes we think that this is where we're supposed to be, this is what we're supposed to be doing at this particular time. But sometimes we have a path for a certain reason. And I'll just say I have a very strong faith. So I know that my steps are ordered. And so if it's a no for me, it means I'm just going to be redirected to something better. So we have to be reminded that every no builds resilience, it teaches strategy, and prepares you for the right yes. So even though we face rejection, we know that there is going to be a breakthrough coming. So I would say to you, stay persistent, Continue to add knowledge to your arsenal and always be ready for the next opportunity because, as I said, rejection can be redirection. Now let's go to our next point. Making lateral moves can give you more marketability. And I know these days everybody wants to make it to the top, and they think that only going up, every promotion is the best way to get to the top, but that's not always true. Sometimes strategic lateral moves can expand your skill set, expose you to new teams, and position you in roles that actually better align with your long-term goals. I will say for me, I made several lateral moves throughout my career, and I've been in the pharmaceutical industry for 27 years. And most of these lateral moves prepared me for what was next, something that was coming next that I needed to be prepared for. So with that being said, sometimes sideways is the fastest path forward. So don't be in the mindset that you have to continue to get promotions to move up. Just be open-minded. Be willing to change. Be willing to take risk because that's very important as well. So again, making lateral moves can give you more marketability. So now we're going to move on to point number 4. And I'll stop here and ask, are there any questions? I know Will said we can ask questions at the end, but I'll just stop now to see if there are any questions from the first 3 points before we move on. And I'll check the chat. I know there seems to be a lot going on in the chat, and it may be introductions, but Will, Doug, can you all help me to let me know if there are any questions?
Yep.
In the chat?
To our candidates, please use the raise hand feature if you have questions. It's a reaction, so it's under reactions or react. And then you can click raise hand if you have a question so far. And then Joy, you should see once folks start using the raise hand feature,
Okay.
they should queue up at the top of Zoom.
Okay. Well, I don't see any yet, so we'll keep moving on, and we'll move on to point number 4. Point number, let's see, it's not moving. There we go. Point number 4, or pearl number 4. People don't know what they don't know. Who are you? So I had to learn this the hard way because a lot of times I hear people say, I'm just going to keep my head down and work hard. And that's great. You can keep your head down and work hard. But however, if you're not talking about or advocating for yourself, do people really know who you are in your department other than your work ethic? So don't just assume people know your story. Don't assume people know your value. Don't assume people know your vision. We have to know that self-advocacy is key. Now, I mentioned I struggle with this because sometimes people see it as bragging or boasting, but it's really not bragging or boasting, but it's letting people know what you have, the abilities that you have, and what you bring to the table. So develop that elevator pitch, be consistent, do let your work speak for itself, but don't be afraid to also speak up for yourself. Because what we do find is that visibility can lead to opportunities. So it's okay to brag on yourself. It's okay to tell people what you bring to the table. It's okay to tell them what you can do. Because one thing I can say about it, if they didn't think you were someone who could do the job, then you would not have been hired for that particular job. So at AbbVie, we call this the ways we work, when we quote unquote brag about ourselves. So it happens during performance reviews. So we have to share everything that we've done for a particular goal that we have set to ensure we get credit for it, because I want my manager to know everything I did within that goal so that he can adequately assess me and my work for the year. So again, people don't know what they don't know. Who are you?
I think we have one question.
Okay.
Ashley, if you'd like to go ahead and ask your question.
Hi. I liked your point about your point pearl number 3 about lateral moves. My question is, like you just said, it's about not always going up and climbing the what experiences did you get out of from going from one lateral move to another? And did it challenge you more by making a lateral move, or?
Yes, so thank you for that question, Ashley. And you're from Birmingham, not too far from me. I live in Atlanta, so just a 2 hour
Okay.
drive. Yeah, just a 2 hour drive away. But for me, the lateral moves did help me grow. So I'll just share a little bit about my role at that time. So at that time, when I started AbbVie, because we were AbbVie at the time, I was a medical science liaison. And so, as an MSL, for those of you who don't know what that role does, we're kind of the scientific experts in the field. So, we talk the science to the national, international, local, and regional thought leaders. And so, normally in that type of role, you move around every 3 to 5 years, normally from company to company. But I stayed where I was because I felt like I didn't have a reason to move. But when I moved to a different, first of all, my first was a promotion. So my first time was a promotion, and I moved from an MSL to a senior MSL, and then I moved from senior MSL to managing MSL. So as a field director, at that point, I was making lateral moves. What that allowed me to do is really gain more experience as a leader. I was leading teams for the first time. And you know, people are different, personalities are different. So it allowed me to have quote unquote HR experiences because I'm now in HR. So I was able to garner HR experiences by making those lateral moves. And in addition to that, it allowed an opportunity for me to also gain other skills, such as depending upon the therapeutic area, but neuroscience, for example, I had a national team. And so that allowed me an opportunity to do more around organization with the team because I didn't have a specific region and how to engage them differently. And so I learned different types of skills from leadership skills all the way to HR skills. And so that's how I aided from those lateral moves.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And have a good day too.
You too. Thank you, Ashley.
Welcome.
Any other questions? Yes, Kareem.
Yes, how you doing?
I'm pretty good. How about you?
Greetings from Atlanta as well.
All right, Kareem, Atlanta.
I just wanted to ask a quick question. I saw on the last slide you talked about Black Greek letter organizations on that, and I'm kind of up and down with that.
Curious about that? So so I'll go back and tell that story. That's a great point, Kareem. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So first, let me talk about the intro to AMI. And so we're back to people don't know what they don't know. Who are you? So I've been with this company soon to be 19 years, and we acquired Allergan Aesthetics in 2020. So I assume, when we're talking to people from Allergan Aesthetics, I have to keep in mind they haven't been around as long as I have. So I just assumed they knew that I had a science background, but they did not know. I happened to be talking to someone and she was like, "Oh, I didn't know you had a science background." So that is important because when you're looking for other opportunities, people need to know. So that was one example. And now the Greek letter organization example. So I remember I was doing a presentation to some recruiters at AbbVie. And they wanted to know why African Americans added Greek letter organizations to either their bios or their resumes. And I said to them, there are several reasons why. And I shared with them the leadership skills that we gained from that, the opportunities that we gained from that, the community service that we're involved in. And so that simple question, actually, Kareem, led to me doing a whole presentation on Black Greek letter organizations. And so as I talked to these recruiters about Black Greek letter organizations, one of them did come back, and actually she's a manager now, and she came back to me and said, "Thank you for sharing that." She said, "Because I met a young man who was a member of," and she was like, "Kappa?" I said, "Kappa Alpha Psi." She's like, "Yes." She said, "And I had an opportunity to talk with him, and I had some education around the Greek letter organization. So that helped me seem like I was, very involved and understood a little bit better." She said it helped me greatly. So that was the example of the Black Greek letter organizations. Again, people don't know who you are. So I said all that to say, continue to add it to your resume. There are some people who are educated in a way that they understand why we added there now. And so that's why I added that example. So thank you for bringing me back to that, Kareem. Thank you.
Understood. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, are we ready to move to point number 5? Any other questions? Any questions in the chat, Will, Doug?
Okay, so let's see. I'm checking out the chat. I think we're good to go.
Okay, sounds good. So let's move on to point number 5. Do you have a dependable and trustworthy board of directors? So let me back up to say, do you have a board of directors? And what does a board of directors mean? It means those personal people in your lives, those mentors, those sponsors, those peers, those accountability partners who are going to hold it down for you. They're going to speak your name in rooms that you're not in. They're going to challenge you to grow, however that comes, but they're going to also keep you grounded. And so that's extremely important, to have a trustworthy board of directors. I have, like, one of my APs is someone from college that I met in college. We were lab partners back then, and we're still partners now. And so she keeps me grounded when we talk about things, or, you know, things that I want to do next, or things she wants to do next. We keep each other grounded, and we help each other out in that way. What I will say, though, you need to choose these people wisely. Why do I say this? And I have an example of here, mentee experience. So I had a mentee who I acquired from Howard University who was interested in becoming an MSL. And so she had moved on to a company, another Fortune 100 pharmaceutical company. And she had what she thought was a great mentor. And when she called that person to have the conversations, to set up meetings, the person kept canceling. And then when they finally had a meeting, the person was very short with her. And so she called me really almost in tears. And she was saying, I really thought that this person was going to help me here at this company. I don't understand what's going on. I don't understand why I'm being treated this way. And we all know people have different reasons to treat people the way they treat them. It could be they feel like these people are a threat. You know, there are other reasons around that. But I said all this to say trust and alignment really are non-negotiable. And I'll say that again. Trust and alignment for your board of directors are non-negotiable. So make sure you set expectations with all of those you select, and make sure they select you. That's very important. It's good that we select our mentors, our sponsors, but make sure they select you. That's extremely important. And what I will say, more than likely you have mentors, but mentors tend to become sponsors. And that happened for me in a situation where it happened to be my manager at the time, who also happened to be my mentor. But in the end, when I made my transition from science or medical affairs at AbbVie to the equity, equality, diversity, and inclusion team, he actually was my sponsor. I didn't know he was speaking my name in those rooms, and he had already volunteered me to participate in certain initiatives that they were having, because he knew my background from my previous companies and what I did to volunteer there. So again, I would say trust and alignment are non-negotiable when you're selecting your board of directors. Point or pearl number 6, deposit in people and causes that deposited in you. You all already know what this means, and it's pretty simple. Give back. So your time, your talent, your treasure. And I understand as a student, you know, we are limited in our resources. And when you're as a new graduate, you're limited in your resources. But keep in mind, there are other ways that you can give back. You can mentor, you know, there are other things that you can do to give back. So we know, with that being said, and getting time to get on your feet, the path you're walking was paved by others. The path that you are walking, for those of you who are at your HBCU now, it was paid by others. So your success is more fulfilling when it uplifts those behind you. So make sure we keep this circle of empowerment going. I like to say what I heard someone else say, lift others as we all climb. And so for me, the examples that I have, how I give back, I started a nonprofit organization, the JJG STEAM Foundation. And for that, my organization, what we do, we give scholarships to students in certain areas here in the Metro Atlanta area who plan to major in science, technology, engineering, the arts, and math. And in addition to that, we collaborate with organizations like 100 Girls of Code, GNSB, and those types of organizations to provide scientific experiences for those students. I'm also a part of the Morris Brown College Board of Trustees. That's my first HBCU I mentioned, and for my second HBCU love, I call them my HBCU loves. I'm on the FAMU College of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Sciences and Institute of Public Health Pharmaceutical Consultative Board of Visitors. And so that's the way that I give back. And so I'll just say again, deposit in people and causes that deposited in you. So let's move on to point number 7. You have not because you ask not. What does that mean? I know you all have heard the term closed mouths don't get fed. And that is really true. So if you want a mentor, ask for the mentor. If you want a raise, ask for the raise. If you're sitting in a room and you're afraid and you know the topic or know just as well the topic that they're talking about, and you're in a room full of managers, but you know you have something to say that can help and benefit, speak up. Whether it's asking whatever you need to do, advocate for what you need. This should not be uncomfortable for you, right? You should make sure, and we talk about the seat at the table, pulling up the seat at the table. Make sure you're using your voice while you have that seat at the table. Asking actually shows confidence and clarity and can actually open doors for you. And people, again, I talked about before, people don't know what they don't know about you. So you have to communicate, you have to advocate for yourself, and then you have to ask for those things. For example, an example for me, I was an MSL field director for the rheumatology team, and I had a passive aggressive manager. And so for the 3 of us field managers, it was a very difficult time because it felt like it was always something going on, always something going on. And one day there was a question that she asked, and obviously she already knew what she wanted to do, but she asked us. And so, Joe decided to jump out on the ledge, and he was answering that day, and they were going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And finally I said, we have been discussing this for 10 minutes and we have gotten nowhere. What do you want us to do? And she sat back. She was shocked. Because my thing was, we wasted 10 minutes going back and forth. You asked a question, we're answering the question. Obviously, this is not what you want us to do. You have a plan. So just tell us the plan so we can implement it with our teams. So she was shocked. In the midst of all of that, I decided that we have development plans. And I decided, you know what? Let me put on my development plan where I want to go next. So I put on my development plan probably a year or 2 before that I wanted to have some neurology experience because my background is neuropharmacology. So in the midst of all of this that's going on, one day she came to me, she said, Joy, I know you wrote down in your development plan that you were interested in going over to neuroscience. I said, yes. She said, well, I hate to say this because I may lose you, but there is a neuroscience opportunity that has become open if you're interested in interviewing for it. And I said, absolutely. So 2 things happened. Number 1, I was able to escape all of the back and forth and the passive aggressiveness that was happening there. 2, I had an opportunity. I was the only field director within that group. So I had a national team at the time. So I gained a lot of experience from that. 3, the director, who was my boss, left and went to another team. So I became the interim field director for a period of time. So I had a lot of experiences simply from putting something down in my development plan. And then also, she had respect for me because I had, that communication gap that we were going back and forth. I was bold enough to say, hey, what do you want us to do? So again, you have not because you ask not. Yes, Lily.
Morning. Thank you so much. I wasn't going to put on my camera, but you have inspired me and encouraged. So can you please speak to how we could make an ask that would be, especially for something like mentorship or just connection, that would be best received from the intended person that you'd like to connect with?
Absolutely. So Lily, the first thing I would say is find out what you have in common with that person and talk about that a little bit and say, this is something that I have interest in. And based on that, I think you would serve as an excellent mentor for me. And then just ask the simple question. But I would definitely say find out what you have in common. Do a little research about the person. But then after you do that research, then feel confident in knowing you have enough information for that ask. So that's how I would approach it, Lily. And then also have your elevator pitch ready so you can tell them about you and a little bit more about the why behind the ask. So I think all of that will be helpful.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you for cutting on your camera. Let's see. I'll see if I can see if there are any questions in the chat. Now I'm laughing because I see the yo noobs. That's funny. Okay.
I have a quick question in regards to Greek life and the resume. Should we still include the political climate that's going on right now? Someone told me to remove it. Should I keep it on there?
I wouldn't remove it. I'm gonna say, for me, Greek life has nothing to do with what's going on in the political climate. I know that, and for companies, and I'll put it this way, for the right company, they're not looking at that. They're looking at you and what you bring to the table.
Okay.
That's what they should be looking at. And if they're looking in that, then you should dig deep within yourself and see if that's the company you want to be.
Okay, that's what I've been saying too.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, so that's how I would approach it.
Yeah, if they're looking at all that, then I don't need to be working there. Okay, thank you.
Exactly. Anyone else before we go on to our last point?
Hi, I had a question. My name is Lita Gibbs, and I wanted to circle back with the not DEI, but the Greek letter organization. I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and I've heard two different schools of thought around that about putting it on your resume. Some people say it's great because if the person is interviewing you, if she's Mysore, if she's Greek, period, she may, maybe there might be a bias there. And then the other side of it that I've heard is that, you don't want to put it on your resume because it could be, you could be discriminated against because, they know that it's a Black organization. So I've had it on, I've taken it off. So I'd love to hear you juxtapose that with what you said earlier.
So I leave mine on.
Okay.
It's been on since I left grad school. And hello, my D9 sister. I am a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, so I'll throw that in there. But I don't hold anything against anyone. I have interviewed my sorors, and they just didn't bring it to the table. So I cannot select someone who does not bring it to the table, right? But whomever it is, if they bring what they're supposed to bring to the table and interview well, I don't care what organization they're a member of, I'm bringing them forward. It doesn't matter to me because at the end of the day, the way I see it, we'll all have the same common goal, right? To give back to the community for achievement, all those things. And so service. And so for me, that's the way I look at it. I, again, have never taken it off. I will say, if people are biased because of it, then you have to really question and try to determine if that's where you want to be, right? I personally don't want to be somewhere where someone doesn't want me to be. That's just how I am. I will, with my last point, you'll hear more about the being anchored in your identity, but I would say to you, I would leave it on. I think if it benefits you in a way where it's where you gain leadership skills, it's showing, where you have leadership opportunities, I would definitely leave it on. I see no reason to take it off.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome. Dorothy, you're on mute.
I'm always saying, if you're going to ask, make sure, and I'm the one doing it, so sorry about that. I do have a question. It's not a Greek organization, but being a member of the NAACP and having as a community, I do a lot of community work with them. And in this climate, that's the same question. Like, do you put that on there? I mean, I'm like, why would I not put it on there? But then it's like, do I put that on there on my cover letter, etc.? Your thoughts around
So will it benefit? So I'll pose this question to you, Dorothy. Your participation in NAACP and that role, I'm just saying a role that you are seeking.
Yeah.
Does it help you by having it on there?
I think it would if the right person is, if someone who, It would, because let's say, for example, I
so
don't
you
have
answered the question.
because
So
that's community engagement. But I'm saying, as the last sister mentioned, in this climate, you're looking at every detail now. Like, you put that on there, and as you said, if they don't want you there.
Let me say this: I ain't never scared. So if it's there, it's who I am. It's a part of who I am. And if you can't accept me for the full joy, then I don't need to be there. I don't need to be a part of your organization if you can't accept all of joy, right? Exactly. That's all of joy. Accept all of me. If I gotta, and I'll say this too, because that brings up another point. You have to be in a place where you feel like you can bring your authentic self to work. Now, if you don't put it on your resume and you start talking about it at work, you see what I'm saying? You see where I'm going with that? So you have to be comfortable to bring your authentic self to work. And if you feel like you have to hide it, Dorothy, for a certain group of people or wherever, then that means to me, that's not where you need to be. So you need to really put some thought, and I would say prayer, behind what the next step is, because that's extremely important. But I don't want to be anywhere no one wants me to be. I don't want to be in rooms where people don't want me to be. I don't want to have to feel that tension, right? I want to be in a place where I'm comfortable, right? And I mentioned I've been at this company for 19 years. Have I been the only person in the room sometimes? Absolutely. But I never felt uncomfortable. As a matter of fact, when I talked about my Greek letter organization and the fact that I was still a member, they were intrigued. They were like, well, what do you do as a graduate? I said, we do community service, same, similar things. Oh my gosh, you do that much community service? So it's really education and awareness for them at the same time, right? What you do for your organization. So I'll just say, you need to be in a situation where you can bring your authentic self to work. Now, if you feel uncomfortable with it, then maybe it's not the right place. That's the way I see it.
All right, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Allison? A thought to that, Joy?
Yes, please.
Just a quick thought. If you include something on your resume that identifies you as a person of color, and you're concerned about whether or not you should have that on, considering the environment, just to reiterate, they're eventually going to see that you're a person of color, right? So if they have a problem with that, then like Joy said, you probably don't want to be there in the first place, and you probably don't want to waste your time, because as soon as you have the interview or the face-to-face, if they're an organization that has a problem with that, and that's probably not going to be a progressive route for you to go anyway. So I just want to reiterate that, on top of what Joy just said. But I see there's a couple more hands raised right now. So Alice wanted to ask the next question.
Thank you, Will. Allison?
Yes, hi. I was trying to turn my camera on. This kind of goes in line, and someone already brought it up in the chat. I'm in the process of applying for jobs right now. I'm mostly in the pharmaceutical, chemistry, microbiology background. And of course, they ask those infamous or famous, probably DEI questions. What's your race? Are you Hispanic? What's your ethnicity, I should say? Do you have any disabilities? Have you had any in the past? Are you a veteran? And I talked to my husband about it. He said he would answer him. My dad said he would not, just again about this climate that we're in and why eliminate yourself from the beginning. I will say that I did show up at a job because my name is Allison, and I can tell, it was in Birmingham, and I could tell that the woman was shocked that I was a Black woman. So I was just wondering what your thoughts were on those questions when you're applying. Is it better to just try to get in the door, I guess? And if they see you're a Black person, I mean, if they turn you around, then of course that's not where you need to be. But
like Bill said, why hide it though? Why hide it, right? Let them know ahead who to expect. And if they're not looking for a Black woman, then they'll know, okay, let's move on. But I wouldn't put yourself in a situation where you don't answer the question. You
can't get into the Zoom without having logged in. That means you logged in already, right?
Yeah, it was like. But yeah, so
okay.
Well, thank you very much for that.
Yeah, but I would go ahead and answer the questions, and they're not, and I'll be honest, the hiring manager doesn't see those questions. So let me just say that. The hiring manager doesn't see the questions. The recruiter sees the questions, but the hiring manager doesn't see the questions. And if it's a company that's really looking for people based on what you bring to the table, then it won't matter whether you're, red as the little song says, red or yellow, black or white, right? So it shouldn't matter.
Okay, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Okay. Is it a chemo? Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yes, you're pronouncing it correctly. Just I had a quick question with breaking into the pharmaceutical industry, because I'm a clinical pharmacist as well with a PharmD, and it's been like kind of tough, like trying to break in that barrier. Like I've been networking a lot, but it's like I've had periods where I've gotten recruiters reaching out to me and then they like ghosted me. Like I got the interview, but then I got ghosted on the day of the interview. So I was wondering, is that something that's happening in the pharmaceutical field now?
So did you interview or you didn't get a chance?
I didn't. We set a date. So first one, we set a date. I waited, took the day off. On that date, I wrote the recruiter back, didn't hear anything back. The second one, I got an interview. She was like, if these dates don't work for you, email me and I can accommodate you. So my question was like, when I did write her back, I never heard back from her again. So with those type of interviews, do you recommend just take whatever they give you, or don't even? I know at FAM they always teach us to be ready for everything, which is fine. I get that. But with my current job now, like I move around, I travel, I work in a clinic, I do a lot of unorthodox things with a PharmD. So it was like I was. Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, it was like I was traveling back. So from working out of state, and I was like, okay, I probably just need a day to prepare. So that's why I wanted to change the date from the date she had, but then I never heard back from her.
So probably what happened in that situation of chemo, because you had to change the date, they probably found who they thought was their candidate. So in the midst of that. So that's probably why they didn't call you back because of that. But one thing I would say to you, I don't know what type of roles you're interviewing for, and we can take this offline. You can connect with me on LinkedIn and we can take this offline. But I don't know the type of roles you're interviewing for, but you need to make sure that they align with what you bring to the table and what you're currently doing. I would say, and I'll just use this as an example, many PharmDs want to be MSLs, and it is a great career. I absolutely loved my career as an MSL. However, I tell those who are just finishing pharmacy school, there's some even in our fellowship program. If it is a pharmaceutical company with, we have, immunology, oncology, very, specialty areas, I'll put it that way, then find where you can go first, get the experience and come back. It's okay to go to a smaller pharmaceutical company and start there. So just make sure you're keeping all avenues open, right? And then keeping all job opportunities that you can move into open that align with you. Because sometimes I find that people are applying for jobs that have senior or those levels on it, and they're not going to look at you if you don't have any experience in that area. So that's just some advice, but we can take it offline.
Okay, I'll reach out to you on LinkedIn.
Okay. Walter?
Good morning, everyone. Hi, Dr. Joy.
Hi.
Are you able to hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I just thought about something you said earlier. I'm really inspired by all of this this whole platform that Mr. Moss put together, his great team. But I am inspired by all of the talks and all of the lectures that we're getting this morning. But I thought about something earlier that you said about redirection. What did you say? Don't tell me. Rejection is not redirection.
Rejection can lead to redirection.
Can be redirection. Yes. So I'm very inspired by that because, like others, it's very competitive job market out there, and I have submitted a lot of applications to a lot of companies, and many of them reply back saying things like, "We decided to move on with other candidates at this time," and things of that nature. And I know that my resume is stellar as well as my performance, but by you making that statement earlier that rejection can be redirection. That's very inspiring. So thank you for mentioning that. It gets me the mindset to keeping on, as the old people say, as well as to be very optimistic that something will come my way.
Absolutely, Walter. Don't get weary in well doing, because you will reap if you faint not. So just keep being persistent, keep looking for that opportunity. You will find the right opportunity. And I'll just tell you guys quickly, when I first interviewed for Abbott the first time, I didn't get the job the first time. And you know, they told me I needed more clinical pharmacology. No, they wanted more kind of HUR experience, right? But Walter, 8 months later, they called me. The recruiter called me back, and she was like, you know, we have this role, and I'm looking at the role. I'm like, that's the same territory I just interviewed for 8 months ago. So I'm asking her, I'm like, ma'am, I just interviewed for that job like 8 months ago. She was like, well, it's past our grace period of 6 months, blah, blah, blah. And you know what, Walter? I told her, no, thank you. And she paused, like a long pause. Like, I guess she was like, oh, did she tell me no? And I said, no, thank you. And 2 weeks later, the hiring manager for the job called me, and she was like, hi, Joy. You know, hey, you know, I know the recruiter called you. She was like, but we're really interested in you for this role. Let us know when you're available. We'll come back to Atlanta to interview you. And so I just told her, let me talk with my husband. We'll think about it and I'll call her back. And so my husband was like, really? Like, you have the job now. You just really need to just go through the formalities. So that was a rejection the first time, but it was a redirection back to the same role. And I said all that to say I've been here now almost 19 years, as I said earlier. So don't get weary in well doing, Walter. You will find the right place for you. So keep on keeping on, as we like to say. Gloria.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. How are you guys doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you for asking. I want to first start off by saying that I commend you guys for sticking to what you are saying, as far as they're going to see who you are, and we have to change the narrative. I left my job at Fidelity Investments last year. I'm just going to be as blunt as I can possibly be. I used to also work at Merrill Lynch. There's not a more racist or sexist environment than the financial environment because it takes a lot to get those credentials. A lot of people can't pass the Series 7, the 66, or the 63, so very few of us have that. So when we're in those spaces, it's very hostile. It's extremely hostile. But what I do want to add, if anyone here has the opportunity to ever be in leadership, I can tell you from my own experience of being in leadership, I went out of my way to give us audience, you know, like how they say people who are AKAs, deltas, Qs, they kind of look out for each other. If I see you are a person of color, I'm going to give you a shot, you know, and not make you go through as much as a white counterpart might have. In leadership, what I'm saying is, because no one gives us the benefit of the doubt, I give us the benefit of the doubt. And what I realize is a lot of us, when we get in these spaces, we feel like because we are the representative, we don't want anyone else in these spaces because they may mess it up for the rest of us. And I think we have to stop having that mentality because we won't refer our own associates to roles that we know are open internally, whereas our white counterparts will refer their nephews, even though they know they're not qualified. That nepotism is a big thing. So I just think we as Black people, we just have to be for us in every situation and understand that if we do refer someone and it doesn't work out, or we're referred and it doesn't work out, it's not a negative reflection on the referral, the person who was the referral. And it's just, I'm just telling you, I started my own company now. You got to make a decision. Can you do the corporate dance or not? I can't. So I'm out. I left Fidelity Investments. I was out. So I'm leveraging those licenses for government contracting, but I think it's beneficial for my recent grads to get that corporate experience, but I just want them to know, and if anyone else wants to chime in, that you need to stand firm in who you are and not let disrespect. Don't allow them, because I think so many of us allow disrespect that when one of us stands up, then it looks like we're aggressive. or confrontational.
Right.
I digress, but anyway, I just wanted to say that. So thank you guys for sticking. I leave Florida A&M University on my resume. I'm proud of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm also a Rattler, as I mentioned. And as I mentioned, be your authentic self. And if you cannot be your authentic self in that environment, then maybe that's not the place for you to be. And similar to what you said, I do. So let me back up because I mentioned previously about interviews. So I, like you, give all of us, people of color, I always do a phone screen for everybody. I don't care whether your background matches or not, I'm going to give everybody a phone screen. Why? Because if they don't make it through the phone screen, I can at least give them some information to help them along the way for their next job, right? And so I make sure that I do that for everyone. So thank you for pointing that out. Terry?
Hi, Joy. And also I want to say thank you to Will for this awesome platform. Joy, my question is kind of outside of what we're discussing. I have interviewed with AbbVie a number of times. My background is advertising and marketing. And the roles that I have interviewed for has been project management. I don't have the certification as a project management, but I do have the certification as a Scrum Master, which is a form of project management. And the other role has been account manager. What advice can you give me? I'm out of Chicago. I'm very familiar with AbbVie and Abbott. They have a strong reputation in the marketplace and definitely at the top in terms of industry leadership. What advice would you give me in terms of assisting me with in terms of hopefully to eventually work for the organization? It definitely, I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry, Terry. And Will, keep me honest here because I don't know how much time we have. So keep me honest.
Go ahead. We're really out of time, but I'll let you answer this question.
Okay. All right. So Terry, I would say, so I'll say the same thing I said to the other person. Just connect with me offline and let me kind of walk you through what may be helpful for you.
Okay. And the last thing I want to say, and this is more to Walter, I look at rejection as God's protection.
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
Yeah. And that's my point number 8, since we're out of time, and I'll be clear about that. Know who you are and whose you are. You know, our identity is our anchor. We've talked about this the whole time. When you know your worth, when you walk in your purpose, no ceiling can contain you. I have a very strong faith. I really believe rejection is redirection. So whether in God, your mission, your vision, whatever, it can carry you through any of your challenges to the point where you don't even know how you got through it or how it was even solved. So again, know who you are and remember whose you are through this process. Thank you so much, Will. And I apologize for taking up too much time.
This is great.
This has been awesome. Joy, Dr. Joy, let me thank you for taking the time out to share your experience. We really appreciate you. And to all of our candidates and attendees joining the call, we appreciate you all participating as well, because without you, this is not possible. Again, we have recorded this session. We will share the recordings after the event. And if you're interested in our next session, I will drop the link in the chat. And if you have not already jumped into the virtual environment for the career fair, all you have to do is go to careerfair.hbcuconnect.com and click on login at the top, drop your email address in, and you should be able to get into the career fair. For some reason, it doesn't recognize your email. Just register and it'll let you right into the virtual environment. So thanks again. I'll drop the link to our next session in the chat one more time. And our next session is on diversity and inclusion, advocating for change in your organization. Thanks
again, Will, for the opportunity. Have a great day, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care.